Good evening and welcome to Monday night's episode of Fools Rush In, where we will be looking back at the weekend's game with Stevenage. For everyone who has popped over from the other channels, I have to say what a great episode Matt Taylor just did on the Official Supporters Club. That was a very worthwhile listen. And if you haven't had the opportunity yet, please do go back and listen to that. There was some very interesting stories. We have a very, very good panel for you this evening. Can't wait to get into all the debate and the discussion, but there is only one place to start to do this properly.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love with you.
Let's get straight into it then by welcoming first, for those who saw the pictures, we've got all three of us that made the game on Saturday. So let's start by saying hello to Nick. How are you, pal?
Yeah, not too bad, Fyfie. Recovered from Saturday, I think.
Yeah. Was the journey any more entertaining than the game?
Journey was okay. Put
Good.
it like that.
Also, alongside Nick and myself at Stevenage was Rich. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, all good, mate.
Good, good. Glad to have you with us tonight.
Yeah, good to be here tonight.
And sporting the spectacles again, I see.
Yeah, back to it.
Back to it. Just like to fit in.
Yeah.
Next up, a man never short of an opinion and enjoys a debate as well as anybody. Good evening, Woody.
Good evening. Good evening. I've just realised how bushy my beard is tonight. I think we should have a little beard competition, Fyfie. Never mind November. We just continuously grow our beard. Just keep growing our beard. I'm good. I wasn't there on Saturday, but somehow I feel like I've lived the pain through you guys.
Well, you certainly lived through the war of the WhatsApp, that's for sure.
I did.
More of that to come. And tonight we're delighted to be joined by someone making their Fools Rush In debut. It's been said a few times that there just isn't enough accents on this show, so we decided to add one more. Good evening, Joe. How are you? And welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm very well, thank you.
Delighted we finally able to find a slot in your busy schedule to come and make your Fools Rush In debut. You've listened for quite a while, I know, and I know you were messaging Nick a long time before we got this sorted about hoping to come on. So like I say, delighted we were able to finally get it sorted.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening to everyone who I'm seeing in the chat. I can see James is with us again. He's a Stevenage fan, so he's going to be very interested in some of what we had to say. I think it may have been you, Nick, mentioned some form of comparison at the time between Stevenage and Sutton, and he took it personally, and I heard a lot about it on Saturday, believe me. But we will come to that. Even if Phil, Christian, Mark's there as well, Kieran, lots of familiar names tuning in. Good to have you all with us. There is only really one place to start. Fyfie left fuming at weekend defeat. I have a lot to say on this. So I'm going to open it up to you guys first. Nick, as I said in the intro, the three of us were all there. What was your take on the game?
Not quite as bad as yours, to be honest. Sort of comparing it to that defeat to the Northampton defeat, I was more pissed off after the Northampton game, to be honest, and I thought we were really, really poor that day. I don't think we were as poor on Saturday. We had a decent 15-minute spell at the start of the second half, but typical Swindon, you know, the stats were out there, 70% possession, didn't create a decent chance, didn't have a shot on goal, which is obviously disappointing. And I think the biggest disappointment is we played two teams near the top, first, second, and we haven't competed. Now, there's something wrong there that we need to compete with them. We need to get a foot in. I think it was Rich said, we were too nice. And if you look at their first goal with the guy sat on the ball and we just let it happen, we should have kicked the shit out of him. Give us a kick away. But we should have. We just stood back and let them do it. So we are too nice and we need a destroyer in there. And I think that showed up against Northampton and it showed up Saturday. Pretty football's great. Yeah, we like to see it. Stevenage deserved the win. They did what they, as much as I hate to say it with the Steve Evans side, what they did well. And you can see why they're top of the league. Jesus. So that's my sort of initial take on it.
No, I completely agree. And on that side, I mean, one of the things that I made very apparent in my sort of rundown of the game, I think me and Rich both agreed, as much as we both really rate Khan and like him as a player, he's not a CDM. And we really need a proper, if Reed isn't able to play all the games, understandably so, we need somebody else who can do that combative job properly, because it's just not, it doesn't appear to be in Khan's nature. I mean, perhaps it can be coached, but I think there's a certain natural aggression and a certain type of player. I mean, Woody, you probably would be better placed to say what's required to do that role well, and whether you, from what you've seen, if Khan's suitable.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I agree. I don't think Khan is suitable for that role. I think even the build-up towards the goal on their first goal on Saturday, you could kind of see that he hasn't got that kind of hard grit that you're referring to. That is technically what we kind of need to look for in a holding midfielder. But I think we've got to be careful as well not to automatically think a holding midfielder has to be Anthony Grant. Because
No, not at all.
No. Yeah, so because Reed isn't an Anthony Grant. But Khan, I think, without calling him a headless chicken, he is a bit of a headless chicken because he's kind of he's the type of player that you want to, you just want to attack. You want him to create opportunities. The player that would always be good in your 5-a-side, 6-a-side team because he's going to make a difference. You wouldn't have a holding midfielder in a 6-a-side team, for example. And it's I think he's not really suited at all to a CDM role. I think somebody mentioned it on the lower league. Look, I can't remember who it was, but that is an area that we do need to strengthen up in.
I think that was one of the few points I agreed with Ben on.
Yeah,
yeah, the very few. That's probably why I don't remember who said it. But yeah, it's and I think kind of reflective a little bit that in the Stevenage game from the goals I saw, it's just the way we conceded as well. I think more, yeah.
I believe that there'll be a hashtag, was a little asterisk and wasn't coming next.
So
It was a
it's,
bad CDM.
it's I think he was, the first goal was terrible. The second goal's defending was terrible. And if that was reflective of the whole game, then I feel sorry for you guys, as I mentioned earlier.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because again, one of the things that Rich, Nick, and I were discussing, I said defensively, I think I put it in the WhatsApp chat as well. Particularly for the first goal, yes, there was an element of misfortune, because there was an obstruction, it wasn't seen, but there was still plenty of opportunity. You just can't get away from abysmal defending, basically. That both goals were completely avoidable. The second goal, there was an easy tackle there to be made. It wasn't made. They go through and score. But that wasn't it. It wasn't just those two goals. Defensively, it just didn't look as assured as some people thought. I mean, we go through the goal kick routines that always get mentioned. We nearly self-destructed from that. And then there was, at the end of the game, a simple clearance from them, nearly ended up with a one-on-one. And it was only because their striker bottled it against Bryn that he didn't have a simple tap in from the halfway line.
I think you mentioned the kind of goal kick routines there, and that's probably what I'm going to ask you guys, because I didn't watch the game. But a CDM is also there to dictate play. So reflecting back on the calm point again when he's on the ball, was he receiving the ball from a goal kick type thing? I don't. You guys were there. I'm going to assume he didn't. But if he did, then he needs to dictate play from there, and he doesn't strike me as the type of player that could do that. Gladwin, I think, would have been a better option to have as a CDM in that game if Reed's not available. Obviously, I think someone's just mentioned in the chat, that game was almost built for Leiden in some ways, but it's there you go. I'll say Claire. That game would have been built for Leiden, and I think what was making me crack up on your little review, Fyfie, was the kind of Sabutio tagline.
It was driving me mad.
But I think because we're never going to change from that, and I think the problem is sometimes it can be the opposition that kind of play to you to make you do that. It sounded quite clear that they did just let us have the ball, which we kind of probably expected, to be honest. But yeah, and when you've got the confidence that Stevenage are playing with at the moment, they're confident to play with any game plan. I generally think, no matter how we would have set up, if we weren't playing very well, we were going to lose that game. Yeah, it was never going to be a game where we're played badly and we'd still win.
So, Joe, let me bring you in here to ask your perspective on it, because we were discussing it before the game, and I said to Richard and Nick, this game is won by whoever imposes their style of football. Stevenage didn't have to work very hard to do that. We allowed them to play their style of football. And what I tried to kind of say afterwards was, we all support Swindon. I know I said James was there watching along, Stevenage fan. There'll be guys from lower league probably watching in, forgetting that Ben isn't here, thinking me and Ben are going to go to war again. But we all support League Two football clubs. We're used to, we know when we don't win every game. But what I can't accept, and when I get really angry after a loss, is if there isn't that seemingly that energy, that effort, that work rate, the basic fundamentals that a fan expects of a team of footballers. And that's when I get wound up, is if I don't there's a way to lose, and how we lost on Saturday is not, for me, the way to lose.
No, agreed. I think it was very predictable, very frustrating. We couldn't find the back of the net. Well, we couldn't find the net, let alone the back of it.
Struggled to find the penalty area.
Well, yeah, true. I think because we're playing in the same way every time, they can just read us. They just know exactly where that ball's going to go. There's no... Where did it feel to me? So there was no sort of drive forward. There was nobody that really showed the hunger in that particular game. They did literally walk all over us, and it was awful to watch. Awful to watch.
Rich, Mark makes a decent point there in the chat. I'll bring the comment back up just so you can see it again, where he says, "We've lost the creativity of Payne and McCurdy. The replacements have big boots to fill." Shade has been ineffective is probably understatement of the season.
Yep.
And needless to say, me and you were running out of ways. I mean, to be fair to him, he was only on the pitch for about, 15, 20 minutes, but me and you ran out of ways to say how ineffective he was in that game. But then a lot of people were. But what I was really struggling to understand is when even just your starting 11 contains Darcy, contains Gladwin, contains Williams, how can there be so little creativity? I was discussing with Matt, the Stevenage fan that came on last week. He said that he thought that the difference really is we needed a striker. I said I couldn't disagree more. I think we've got two perfectly good strikers, but nobody creating anything. We're wasting Wakeling out wide because he's not a winger. And Jephcott is getting absolutely zero service.
Well, if you look, I mean, like you say, Jacob Wakeling, he's not a winger. Johnny Williams theoretically isn't a winger either. He's like a number 10, really. He always has been, really. And Shade, like I think it was at Mark that said it. He's just ineffective, and really, that's the one thing that I think we've lacked on in transfers this season. We've got no real creativity. I mean, when you've got a player like Payne, who is a born number 10, but he like you say, he's creative. He creates the play. He puts it on a plate for strikers. I mean, the rapport that McCurdy and Payne had last season, I don't see that this season. I don't see two players having that same connection. It's like Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland at Man City. They've got a rapport. Last season, it was McCurdy and Payne. Do you know what I mean?
McCurdy and Payne, De Bruyne and Haaland, very similar.
I'm saying what I'm trying to say is that every team has it, or every team that creates the play should have that kind of combination. And I think that's one thing I think we have sort of lacked on, and I think that's one thing that's biting us in the butt at the moment. And also, I think that's where we're not scoring as many goals as well. Like with our home games, we're sort of scraping through it. And even against Doncaster away, we sort of scraped that as well with a 1-0 win. And actually, it's been Ben Gladwin that's been setting up these goals. I mean, like, it's weird to think, like, we don't have like an out-and-out winger that's creating things for us. And it is a bit of a shame, but also I think it's something that we need to work around as well. In terms of Shade, don't really know what else I can say about him, to be honest with you. He just lacks enthusiasm.
That's being generous.
It's me putting it the nicest way possible. He lacks enthusiasm. He gets the ball and he thinks he's going to beat every man. And yet, actually, he doesn't. He doesn't do that. And when he does beat a man, he just like strolls like with his body language, his attitude is all wrong. I think he thinks he's better than this football club. That's my personal opinion. Because he had such a good season at Walsall last season, and he thinks, right, well, if I had such a good season, I mean, I didn't see much of him play at Walsall last season, but from what I've heard, that he was like their best player or something like that. So maybe he thinks he's better than this league. I don't know, but personally, for me, I'm obviously not a fan. I know Woody's not a fan.
I'm not a fan.
Fyfie's not a fan. Nick's not a fan. I don't.
No, Nick's a fan. Nick likes him.
Nick likes him, does he?
No, I don't like. Oh, I'm not going to say it.
I do know.
Be very
Ned
careful here, Nick.
I will.
I do know Ned is a fan though.
Ned is a fan.
But yeah, for me personally, it's somebody like Hutton, for example, who's a fullback. Like the last 15, 20 minutes, we had that fullback of Stevenage on toast, and he was running past them, and he was actually trying to create things.
Yeah,
but I don't see that from anybody else.
So I was actually going to say, because I appreciate I can come across as negative when I go through all these things that are wrong. I did want to say that Hutton and Gladwin were two of the better players on the pitch combined. Not just our better players. They were definitely our two best players, but they were two of the better players on the pitch generally. Unfortunately, there was just not much else around them happening. there was an interesting comment made, and I'm just going to flash it back up on the screen. And Joe, I'll start with you, and I'll throw it over to Woody as well, because it links into an interesting question that was asked on Twitter. And again, me and Ben may have had a little minor disagreement. And it has to be said, before anyone thinks any differently, me and Ben get on like a house on fire. I don't want anyone to think that we are always just like this, but we do have differing opinions on certain elements of football. And if you'd like to listen to how different our opinions could be, definitely go back to last night's lower league look, when Ben was being very positive and I was having none of it. Back on the subject, we throw a lot of crosses in to nobody. The question was asked on Twitter, is Jephcott getting a free ride early doors? Because we're not really creating anything for him to work off, so fine, that might explain why he's not really hit the ground running. But you look at someone, say, like Davison, who got a lot of stick last year but was a real workhorse. You don't really see the same from Jephcott so far, and the critics aren't really out for him yet.
No, they're not. But I think we will.
We will.
Yeah, I think we will. Well, we can hope that we will. But no, I think Jephcott, it's one of those things, have we got the time to give him? I don't know. I'm on the fence with Jephcott. I don't know. I don't know where I stand with him. But Hutton, for me personally, he has improved game on game on game, and he's putting those peachy little balls right where they need to be, but there's just nobody on the end of it. Nobody at all.
I would argue a lot of the crosses on Saturday were either not beating the first man or going far too far the other side. But that I agree, there is definitely a player there, and he is improving game on game. Rich, you want to come in on Hutton there?
Yeah, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah, his crosses were going way too far.
How about you, Woody? What's your take on the Jephcott question?
I haven't really seen enough of him, to be fair, but my expectations weren't particularly high. Definitely not the answer. But
I'd be surprised, because he would have made a hell of a difference.
In what way? In what way?
He would have given them some. He would have caused them some sort of bother. He would have made them do something.
Fyfie, I could cause Stevenage a bit of bother. That doesn't mean you're going to bring me on in the 80th minute. Yeah. But the
Hashtag bring Woody on.
But yeah, what was the last home game?
Newport.
Newport.
Sorry, the one before that, Saturday home game.
Northampton.
That's the one. And I just think that I think we played about 2 crosses that game. In terms of the amount of times that Gladwin, Williams, XYZ were in positions where they could put the ball in the box. Is Jephcott going to? Again, I wasn't overly excited. I was happy that we signed him. I thought we signed him more as a backup to Wakelin than what it seems that he is being. Kind of our starting number 9. But yeah, I think the way that I can only look at it is he's not scoring as many goals as we thought he was going to. I'm not going to get on his back yet, because if Saturday is a true reflection, then we played crap. Then we can't just single out Jephcott. It's
no, definitely not.
If the whole team's playing crap, then we shouldn't just look at Jephcott in that situation. But but I think you look at the points that were made about creativity earlier. Jephcott's not just about getting on the end of crosses. Jephcott should be in and around the box to receive through balls. He should be there. He's an experienced player. He should be able to create his own goals as well. There's no reason why he shouldn't be able to create his own goals as well. Get the ball into feet, turn a player. We didn't have a single shot on target, I think, is it on Saturday?
Well, apparently we had 10 shots, and I was struggling to work out where they were.
Well, if they were anything like the Darcy shot that I saw in the highlights, then we didn't have much.
That's exactly what they were.
The one that kind of trickled past the post. But yeah, I think. But that says it all. But without looking at the whole game, like you say, you don't remember a shot. So that says to me that we didn't get the ball in and around the area. So is the service there, or is Jephcott not getting his runs right? It's
both.
I think it could be. Yeah, it could be a bit of both. Or did Stevenage have a master game plan on him? You guys probably better to answer that one.
They didn't have to work hard at all, and that was the problem. It was pedestrian and it was predictable.
But the thing
Yeah.
is, we didn't work around it there. I mean, they had a high press and we were still passing it short. Every team that's going to come to us this season knows our game plan because we're going to be playing out from the back. Teams know that now, and they're just like, right, strikers go up, keep them pressing.
And this is where I feel that we're not playing out from the back properly, because you should be able to still play out from the back with a high press against a high press. It just changes the style. There's nothing wrong with a ball going over the top when you're playing out from the back. Because if they've got a high press, that normally means there's midfielders left without, and midfielders, wingers that are left unmarked. So what we need, the problem with playing out from the back, is we don't have the players to do it. That is and I've said that all season. I don't think McDonald's the right player. I don't think even Baldry, even Clayton to a certain extent, I don't think we've got the right players to be able to play out from the back. Yes, if they want to continue working on it, let's do it. But on the other side of the pitch, like you say, I think it's a bit early for us to judge Jeff Gott, but I do 100% agree with Joe. I do think that we're Swindon fans, or in fact most fan bases will. We probably did, we put our hopes on him a little bit, and we're probably going to, start slating him if he doesn't start scoring goals. You wait until he misses a sitter, then we'll be all over him, because it will happen. He'll miss a sitter. He'll miss one 6 yards out. But yeah, I just think I don't want to dwell too much, because I'm not overly disappointed with the result, but I am disappointed by how we played, by the sound of how we played. Listening to on the radio, it sounded dire. And we need to sort that out first. We need to become Stevenage. We need to become kind of a team that can play ugly and still win the game. Because I don't give a shit about playing nice football in League Two. I think Woz has said it before. We do play quite attractive football when it works. But the problem is, I still think that 50% of this season it hasn't worked, and we need to, and the rest, arguably, especially if you look at all the draws. But we need to just get out of this league. And I think, I don't care how we do it, just get out of this league. I don't care if it's hoofball. Jeff Cott it could be he could be part target man, part striker, whatever. But let's just start playing to players' strengths. Don't stick to one style of play. Let's just get ourselves out of this league. And at the moment, if we play anything like we did on Saturday, it isn't going to happen.
So I want to applaud the comment there about not necessarily disappointed in the result at the end, but disappointed in the way we played. And without going, is the saying, behind the fourth wall too much? Nick, I'll bring you in here, because there was a very strong discussion amongst us after the game in the chat about mentality and over various different things. So to give an insight into some of the comments that were made that I was particularly disagreeing with, anyone who goes into that game, regardless of how well Stevenage have done this season, and said, I'm not disappointed we lost because I thought we were going to lose, that is not the right mentality. You do not go into any league game. I do not care. I mean, I think Rich was saying before we went live, we played Man City last year. We knew what was going to happen, yet we all went there still believing there was a chance we would commit a shock.
Sorry, sorry, Fyfie. I gotta say my piece just very, very quickly on this, and then I'll
you get a hashtag up in a minute.
No, sorry. If any football fan has that mentality going into a game, oh yeah, we're gonna lose, then what is the point? Do you know what I mean? I just don't get it.
I completely agree.
If you're supporting a football team, it doesn't matter who you're playing against. You go with it, and you hope that maybe your team can pull off a miracle. We shouldn't have had to pull off a miracle against a team like Stevenage.
And that's no disrespect to Stevenage.
No, absolutely not. But Stevenage is Stevenage. I mean, they were on the brink of getting relegated to the conference a couple of seasons ago, and by some bloody miracle, they managed to stay. They managed to stay in the Football League. But now they're on the brink of, I mean, it's still early days. It's October, for God's sake. But I mean, they're obviously top of the league now. But I just absolutely do not get anybody's mentality of a football fan thinking that, oh yeah, we're going into this game. We're going to lose. We don't care.
No, I completely agree. And sorry, Nick, did you want to say something on that before I say some of the other examples that we discussed?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. One, just going back to the Jetcott debate. Personally, I think the problem is the way we're playing. I think he needs to be in a front two. Reading the comments from when he was at Plymouth, and some of their fans have put on there, don't expect him to be running all over the place. He's not a Davidson, totally different player. Davidson ran his guts out from our 6-yard box to their 6-yard box, and he was a workhorse. Jetcott's totally different to that. He's a poacher. He needs to be in and around the penalty spot, and if we don't get the ball to him, he's got no chance, and we haven't been getting the ball to him. So he was getting isolated. Like already been said, Wakeling on the wing is a waste from what we've seen. So they need to play a front two. Now, whether they do that by going back three, which probably none of us really like, but that's an option, or we play with a diamond.
I think it could still work. I still genuinely believe a back three could work.
And play with a diamond. But the comment from Rich is about fans going there saying, "Oh well, we'll probably lose this game." To be honest, it doesn't matter a shit what the fans think going into a game. It's what the players think. I mean, we did not compete in that game, and as I said, and it's already been said by others, we've been far too nice. From the first minute, we should have clattered somebody, and we should have said, "We're going to match you. We're going to match you. You know, fight on fight." And we didn't do it, and they just rolled us over, and we haven't got that nasty streak. They were playing a typical Steve Evans dark arts all over the pitch, and we haven't got it in us at the moment to do that. And unless we start competing with League Two teams on that basis, you've got to earn the right to play football. And we try and play nice football from minute one. And if we don't get the early goal and got something to work with, then, you know, that's where our problems are. So any team would tell you, any manager would tell you that you have to earn that right to play your pretty football. So we've got to change how we play, how we start games. And if we do that, you know, we've got some bloody good players. I mean, that's the most frustrating thing on paper. And I know you don't win games on paper, but we have got a good side, and we should be competing for top three. So, you know, and it's down to the mentality of the players.
Yeah, just going on that point, Nick, literally exactly what you just said there. I mean, so my under-10s played on Sunday morning. We were 2-0 down. We were too nice. Literally, they were just going into challenges and just like not caring. Half time, I said, and I said to them, like, we got to be stronger, okay? They're putting in 2-footed challenges, okay? Let's not do that, but let's just bully them off the ball a little bit. Let's just put a few shoulders in. And guess what? We got back into the game and we went 3-2 up. Do you know what I mean? It's game-changing moments like that. Like, if you just say, right, let's be a little bit more aggressive. It doesn't matter what age group, what football you...
Yeah, agreed.
As long as you show that aggressiveness, as long as you have that mentality going into a football match saying, right, I want to be aggressive, okay, then, yeah, there's no reason as to why you can't win a game of football by having that kind of aggression in your team.
Joe, I'm interested I want to give you a couple more examples of things we discussed at the... Oh, Woody's had enough of this.
Woody's done.
Woody's done. He's had his bit. I want to give you a couple more examples of some of the comments that I saw and how I reacted to them. But before I do, I want to pick up on something Nick said, if I may. And it was the phrase dark arts, because me, Nick, and Rich mentioned this a few times on Saturday. And one of the ones in particular that I was interested in, because I admit I don't get to go to half as many games as I'd like to. So I asked Rich's opinion on this. So I'd be interested in yours as well, Joe. Wakeling was getting tugged and pulled and pushed all over the shop. He's a youthful, honest, energetic player. I'm not an advocate for going down easy, but going down at all sometimes, if you're not getting anything, is the only way to go. Now, I know that's considered a dark art, but if we're going to persist in playing him out there, is that something he's going to learn how to, or going to have to learn how to do?
I think he's got no choice, has he? Really? I think he's, if you look at, like you said, the way he's already been pushed and pulled and thrown around the pitch, he's going to have to toughen up. It's just unfortunate that's the way it is in League Two, isn't it? Again, we just need. It's almost like you want to say, you need a bigger pair of balls to just go in there and go, no, we're not going to be pushed around. They do need to be a bit more aggressive. How that's done, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I'm far too nice, you see. I'm like, oh no, it's fine. But no, they do. They do need to be a little bit more aggressive. That's been quite apparent from the beginning, I think.
I've been asked if Woody and Joe swapping sides of the screen is a tactical switch.
I'd like to say yes, but it was actually just my fat fingers pressing leave instead of more.
I wish we had done that to Williams and Weekland at the weekend. Then.
Yeah, good point. That
Or just log one of them off for 10 seconds and swap sides.
Yes, right.
Okay, here's a couple more examples then of things I saw, not necessarily from the Fools Rush In guys, but just things I saw generally and how I reacted to them. So we've already discussed I thought we'd lose, and I don't accept that. There was a comment made, and we all know who said this, that maybe I could have calmed down a little bit because it's 3 defeats in 13. And I said, no, it's 2 defeats in 3. 3 in 13 was one of the worst things that could have been said to me at that point. I was having none of it whatsoever. The point was made, and it's a very valid point. There is a lot of good stuff going on off the pitch at Swindon Town at the moment. So if we have to, suck it up and go again, then so be it. I said, no, every year we should be looking to progress regardless. Now, yes, we are progressing off the pitch, but the bread and butter of a football club is what happens on the pitch. So if we're not achieving more than we did last year, then for me, it's a failure. And I said, if you offer me the chance to either be completely debt-free, but 5 more years in League Two, or have the same level of debt we have now, but playing in League One, there's only one winner for me there. Yeah. And that is promotion to League One. I understand and I appreciate that there will be people, because I've been guilty of it in the past. There will always be people who look for the uber positive, Joe. You can have both, can't you? You can be positive but still see the negatives.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you were very, very right when you said that, yes, it's wonderful that we are getting rid of the debt, and it's wonderful that we're doing all this in the community and everything else. But you've heard it from the players yourselves, when they've been on the podcast or the, various other platforms saying that their ultimate goal is to get out of League Two. They want to get up there. They want to go into League One. That's what they want. And I think the majority of fans, if you ask the fans, would want exactly the same. So, yeah, marvellous. But should we be concentrating on the pitch? I absolutely agree with you 100%, Fyfie.
So I'll throw it open to all of you, and Woody's disappeared for the moment. So I'll start with you, Nick. Joe's disappeared as well. There she is.
We didn't disappear together. It's quite okay.
I'll start with you, Nick, then. The burning question in all of this is, how do we solve our problem of being consistently inconsistent?
Blimey, if I could answer that, I'd be a top manager. Look, I think it's a mental attitude with the players, and whether they've gone into those games thinking we've got good players, technically we're good, and we play our football, and football will win, and we will win the game. And I think that's possibly part of the problem. As I say, we've got to go in there and impose Swindon's way of playing on the opposition. But you've got, as I said earlier, it's just repeating what I've said earlier, we've got to earn that right. And we haven't been doing it so far this season. And, we did it last season. What is it, the last 4 games? I mean, unfortunately, I didn't see any of those because I was sat in a bloody hospital bed. But Town worked their guts out and earned the right to win those games. and that's that's exactly what we've got to do. But going back to what you were talking about earlier, Fyfie, whether we want to be debt free and improve things in and around the ground, or go to promotion. Have I been relegated now? Down to the bottom.
No, you'll never be relegated,
Thank
mate.
you. If you look at the number of teams over the however many seasons you want to look at that have spent millions of pounds on their grounds, and the teams have gone down and out of leagues because they haven't invested in the players, and there's nothing more important than getting that playing staff correct and going up the leagues. I'd rather we keep the town end for the next 5 years if we can get in League One and above, and then invest in redeveloping the town end. There's teams like Coventry that have been in and out of divisions, spent brand new ground. There's loads of them
out of that ground, gone back to the ground, moved out of the ground.
Out, yeah, exactly, and they haven't invested in the players, and that's the bread and butter. And we get a winning team, and you'll get more people through the gate, and then you will get more income. Let's get that right first. Let's get out of this poxy League Two.
See, on that, and I don't know if it's the point you were going to make, Rich. I genuinely believe they have invested in the team, though.
I think they have. I mean, it wasn't the point I was going to make, but yeah, just quickly on that. Oh no, I've been relegated. No, just on that though. Yeah, we have. Well, we've paid for players this season. That's a change in itself. Okay, but the point I was quickly going to make is just going back onto the teams of like their investment into the actual grounds and stuff like that. You look at a team like Bournemouth, for example, who have done nothing to their ground and just clearly invested in the players and the coaching staff, and they're in the Premier League. Okay, they're nowhere near is their stadium worth to be Premier League, considering more capacity than our ground. But having said that, though, they make it work. So do I think, okay, it would be great to see the stadium and it would be more appealing, but I think their strategy of how they've got to where they need to be, okay, we might not be as rich as Bournemouth, but definitely we know we've got a good strategy in place to be able to build young players up and get them to where they need to be, get money, get investment, like Nick said, get more fans in the ground. That would be a great start. And we've spoken about this as well at the start of the season when we were talking about debts and everything like that, and the fact that now the debentures have all been settled and stuff like that. It does make it interesting to see what Clem is going to do in January and maybe next summer as well, depending on where we are and where we're based. But I think this early on in the season, I still feel as if, as much as Woody hates to hear the word, I'm going to say it anyway.
Oh, don't.
No, I'm joking. I'm not going to say it. But no, what we can start to see in this Lindsay team is that we are starting to play good football and we are starting to get a few results here and there. Okay, we're not going to get the consistent run of games, but there's definitely progression in this team and there's definitely positives. And I think we say about Lindsay, obviously he's not had that. This is his first ever like proper managerial appointment as well. He's still learning things as well. He's learning game on game on game on game. So it's interesting to see the fact that we lost against Northampton, we beat Newport, we lost against Stevenage. Okay, what's he going to do now for Colchester at home? And are we going to get a result at Colchester? I hope it's not going to be I hope it's not going to be a bumpy season like that. But I think we've all got to sort of have that realistic point of view that it could possibly be that way.
It's an interesting one because it links into both points, Woody. With regards to the recruitment and then Lindsay, we were stood there, the three of us, and we were baffled by some of the substitutions. But when you think about it, the options that we really wanted / needed to have at that time aren't available, whether it's through not having them at the club or, you know, certain players being injured, etc. And you know that a couple of us were having a discussion again about whether the recruitment has been good or not, etc. In terms of the whole squad, not for that game specifically. But how do you look at it? Because when you see you're losing 2-0 against the team at the top of the table, a team who, despite what some people who, you know, we really do appreciate and respect, but they say some things like we should respect Stevenage for being top of the league. No. How do I phrase this? The players weren't there to make the changes, yet Lindsay's still going to get questioned for the changes. Like we've all said, you know, about Shade coming on, but we don't have a better option than him at the moment. You know, Morphy Richards is out injured, so that option isn't there. We're playing our two main strikers. Adeloy's still some way from being available. He would be a different option. But is it a case of the pieces are there, but you know, we have a couple of key injuries, or have we not quite got that recruitment bit right yet?
I think I've understood your question. I think
yeah, I confused myself halfway through how I was going to try and phrase it.
I think we got the recruitment right. I do generally think we have got the recruitment right. As a player, is a manager's liable to make a mistake. You know, a manager could make a change, and you know it could be a mistake. And that from Danny there, that comment there, 100% agree with that. Around, you know, he's not brand new to football. He's not brand new to management. He would have had his ear in Ghana. He would have had his mouth in Ghana's ear last year. But I think sometimes, you know, we look at it and we say we're reflecting on how bad the performance was, you know, and sometimes if you just play really bad, it doesn't matter who you've got on the bench or whatever. I do, you know, the lad from Banbury, was he on the bench?
I don't remember his name being announced. No.
Okay.
I'd have to check.
Yeah, because I just think
you keep talking. I'll double check.
Yeah, so I just think I'm going to assume he wasn't, but you know, the only time I get concerned is when we end up, you know, making a big deal out of getting these players in and then not using them. You know, we've done it before, and I think if the attacking options aren't doing anything, you do change the attack. If we're not having enough shots on goal, you do change the attack. Is Shade the answer? I'm sorry, but no, he's not the answer to any problems, in my opinion. But have we got the recruitment?
Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, have we got the recruitment wrong because we lost to Stevenage? No. A couple of games ago, we're talking that we've won 3 games in a row, and all of a sudden the recruitment's brilliant and all of this stuff. So I think this is why I'm trying not to get so hung up on the Stevenage result, because I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it is just a really shit performance and we've lost that game. And it's funny because our dear friend, who meant, you know, we talk about the must wins and the need wins. The problem is when you do play badly and you lose, all of a sudden these need wins become must wins. You know, I think there was talk about how Colchester and Hartlepool are opportunities for us. Sorry, Ben.
Don't even start me on that.
I hope he listens. Opportunities, no, they are must wins. You drop points, the next game. I mean, for me, every game's a must win. But if you drop points, the next game is a must win. It doesn't matter whether you draw or lose. You have to recover. But
so just on the point you were making there, Woody, I've got it up now. So the subs bench as of that we had at the week on Saturday was Bran, Shade, Lavinia, Aguiar, Iandolo, Brennan, and Reed. So for me, there's one out and out attacking option there, and that's Shade.
Yeah, I mean that's a potential squad selection issue. So yeah, could you look at Lindsay in that situation? We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Did Aguiar come on? I think he did, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did. You know, and did Reed come on? I feel like I did listen to the game. Honest.
No, he never came on.
I did listen to the game. But yeah, so you know, even a change of style in terms of bringing someone like Reed on could have, you know, could be an identifier to, if Khan's not playing very well, take him off for Reed. At the end of the day, put Reed back in there. We said the same the other way around about Reed's not playing very well. I was glad that he was dropped in some ways because it shows he's not, he's not indestructible. Yeah, he's not undroppable. But yeah, to answer your original question, I think the recruitment's been fine. I think we will need to recruit again in January. I think we will need to potentially have a look at, if we're going to continue with this style of play, we need to look at the players we've got. We've got to bear in mind that Williams will be returning from the World Cup, depending on how far Wales get, and all of this kind of stuff. But I think we talk about gelling. I know Rich said it earlier. There's no coincidence. Stevenage did all of their business. Stevenage did all of their business really early. I said that at the beginning when we did the predictions pod. Stevenage did all of their business really early, so that's got to be linked into the fact that they're hanging around at the top of the table. So it's yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It depends. For me, if we bring in somebody to replace Shade, then we would. It's nothing against the guy personally, but I'm sorry, but that guy is not what we need. He might be a good footballer, but he's not what we need.
So let's round off this topic then, Joe, by asking you the same question we asked Nick. How do we solve this consistency problem?
Gosh. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's fair enough. None of us really know. We're just spouting stuff in the hope that something makes sense and someone else just nods and agrees, really.
Yeah, I have no idea. I really don't, honestly.
Danny has tweeted a picture saying the star of tonight's podcast, and it's just Woody and Joe's screens constantly going off. The blank icons.
We're not going off together, honestly.
Let's
initiations.
Well, considering, no one else could see what you've just put there, Woody, but considering what you have just typed in the secondary chat, we then get Woody speaking nothing but sense. It's not I think that's more for the please to get Woody some love in the chat, because normally you go without anyone commenting. It's always Nick and Warren and Ned. So it's Woody's night tonight.
Yeah, that's the Green Down Massive looking out for me, that is.
And there is the answer to the problem. When we find our best 11, we'll find consistent form. Let's move on then. And today, Today is Mental Health Awareness Day. Something that we've spoken a lot about on various podcasts. We've done specials about it. I know Woody's mentioned it before as well, and we've all spoken about different elements to do. We've all spoken about different elements to do with our own personal stories. And football, I find it works both ways, doesn't it? That a lot of people will say there's a lot. People do struggle at football because there's a lot of negativity, particularly with social media and how big it's got, but it can also be a tool for people. And when you say mental health, it's not just people who are suffering with depression, it's people with anxiety, it's people with addiction issues. And it doesn't even have to be that far in extreme. It can just be people who are low for whatever reason. And I don't know about all of you, but for me, it seems whenever there's been something like important life moments, good and bad, Swindon Town have always been there in the background kind of thing. An example I've given before is when I found out that my partner at the time was pregnant with our son. I was very young. I went through doubting whether I was going to be capable of doing it. And it just so happened the day I found out, Swindon had a friendly. I was at the county ground an hour before, sat on my own, had a bit of a cry, but I felt better afterwards. But Swindon was my safe place. The county ground was my safe place to be able to go and do that an hour before kickoff. Joe, I know for yourself, you sort of spoken to me about this as well. And and Swindon Town as a deep association to you when it comes to mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't shy away from talking about my mental health issues, and clearly from what you can hear with my accent wise, I'm not Swindonian, and I've been here for quite some time, but it wasn't actually until I found town and started going with my husband and my son, and getting up in the Don Rogers, meeting people in the Legends, coming out and chatting to people on Twitter and that sort of thing. I'd never actually called Swindon my home. I felt lonely. All I wanted to do was be back in the Midlands. But really, I've made so many good friends and contacts through Swindon Town Football Club that it is my actual safe haven. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I never think. I used to play football a long time ago, but then I was married to a Manchester United supporter that was a proper Manchester United supporter, which kind of made my life a little bit hell. And I kind of put football to the back of everything and concentrated on having babies and whatnot. But as soon as I found town, it was like I could call Swindon home, and that was a massive thing for me. A massive thing. I mean, and almost as well post-pandemic, because I used to be confident and I used to enjoy meeting people and everything. I think those 2 years where everybody had to sort of stay at home and I sort of went quite introvert, and it's only recently that I've started, getting out and about again and having the confidence to talk to people. And a lot of that is thankful to Swindon. I've got involved with the Fit Fans thing on the ladies' night once a week on a Wednesday, and I've met some fantastic people. We now sponsor the football club, so I've got to go to sponsors dinner, and every single person that I've come into contact with has been so welcoming and so friendly that, again, I'll say it just one more time, I'm finally calling Swindon my home, and that's purely thankful from Swindon Town Football Club.
And you can really hear in your voice when you say that, Joe, just how personal that particular journey and how big a part it is for you. Woody, I mentioned there both sides of the coin, how football can play both a very positive and particularly negative part on people's mental health. How, you're involved in football. How do you find football deals with this kind of thing?
Well, first of all, thank you, Jay. That was lovely from what you said there. I think, excuse me. There we go. Sorry about that. I think how does football deal with it? I don't think football will ever have the answer to how to deal with the negativity. I think that is primarily down to the social media companies. But I don't think they'll be able to rein it in forever either. I think technology is just so advanced now. Excuse me, I'm going to need more than a mental health in a minute. But clubs are doing their bits, like in terms of encouraging positive social media and things like that. I agree with what Joe was saying in terms of it does have a spin. I mean, over lockdown, even not having Swindon, from my point of view, not coaching, not having that release that I could go away from the working day and just coach and be happy in that environment. Rich would probably, say the same. It almost becomes mental health is so much related to routine. And if football is part of your life, football is part of your routine. And I think that's why so many people struggled. Yes, okay. The negative effect comes from the fact there's so much more exposure now. Even if you think of exposure to the limits of behind the scenes documentaries and things like that, we're starting to see what goes on really in managers' heads, players' heads, staff's heads, and all this kind of stuff. And it all started, you think about the Sunderland Until I Die documentary on Netflix. That really went into some dark places in terms of like where people were, what they were thinking. And I think although it's brilliant to see those insights, it almost comes to a fool's demise, because you sit there and you go, oh, I know what's happening behind the scenes, and people naturally assume, and then you get that negative social media because people are assuming something bad is going on, so they're going to start rumors and they're going to make people into those negative mindsets and things like that. And I think, Nick brushed upon it brilliantly. We joke and we laugh about Shade, in terms of our opinions on him as a footballer. But it's so easy now to get rid of the football element and just put in the mental element and put in the person element. And I think that's where we as a society haven't really got the balance yet. I think sometimes too many people will type before, we all heard of the saying, you speak, but you speak before your brain actions or whatever. There's still a lot of people there who will type before they actually think about what they're typing and how that's going to impact. And I think, the FA Respect campaigns and all the social media campaigns are trying to do across sport in general is really good. Rich will tell you from my days at Abingdon, I'm a massive fan of social media in terms of its impact in football, in terms of what it can do. I still think there's more positivity than there is negativity. But the problem is the light shines on negativity. It never shines on positivity. And I think as a friend, when you're looking out on social media, people will use social media now to kind of put those hidden messages, kind of, I'm not okay, but they won't actually say I'm not okay. So that's kind of a pleading thing from, whether it's, your friend who's normally okay, or your enemy that's normally okay, that's now, not them normal selves. We need to use social media for that platform to turn a negative into a positive, so people can see that there are people out there. We've said many a times, even if you hate what we say on Fools Rush In, if you're not in a good place, message one of us. We're always going to, be there for it. And I think football clubs are really getting into that now. Swindon Town Women in particular, we went into contract with, get a name right, I think it's Willow Grove, they're called now, the mental health thing. We did that because we thought it's such a big part of the game now for players, staff, fans, everything. Mental health helplines and things like that are always a phone call away. That's what football clubs and sports clubs are doing really well now, is they're partnering up with these kind of consultancies and EAPs. I bet you that nearly everybody on this channel has got an EAP through their work, but they just don't know it because it's not advertised enough. And so it's really just about really continuing to push that positive message out, because every negative can turn into a positive. I've always said that all my life. I've said every negative can turn into a positive. And I think as a football fan base, we just need to be there. Everybody's got the same interest. One thing that does always happen when something really bad happens in football, all of a sudden rivalries, rivalries are gone and all that. Yes, you get the occasional dickhead that decides I'm going to post something really bad on Twitter to get a reaction. But, there's so many more people that are there going, we're here for you, rather than people trying to slag you off.
Yeah, no. I mean, just picking up on a couple of things you said there, if you think right back to when we first started this, the main reason when we very first started was because fans couldn't go to football, and it just allowed, like, I was up here sort of isolated by myself in Leicestershire, couldn't get to games because, no one could get to games. You guys were all there, mostly season ticket holders, couldn't go to games anymore. We were all watching the streams and stuff, and it just gave us that chance to talk about the games the way that we always used to. The majority of us never knew each other before this. And now we, as you say, through football and through adversity that was COVID, we've got friends, and included in that, I think about the likes of yourself, Joe. We've got Danny, Mike, Claire, everyone who interacts with us on a regular basis. This is the first time, we get to meet people like yourself properly and say hi. But you know the names, the personalities, and that's through football that you get to do that. And something else you said, Woody, is very right. Without naming names, because they wouldn't want me to name names, we have had messages from people thanking us for doing the podcast, not because we're the greatest we're not Under the Cosh, we're not the Peter Crouch podcast, we're not any of these high-end podcasts, but we've had messages because some people like what we do, it resonates with them, and if they're feeling down or they're in a bad place, they appreciate it, and we have had messages of thanks for that. Nick, I'm sure you won't mind me saying, prior to being a regular panelist, you've had well documented health issues, and you came on after we reached out saying, look, we know you've been in hospital, are you okay? Because you were kind of just at home not being able to do anything.
Yeah, 100% Fyfie. And really, if just somebody saying exactly that, how are you? Are you okay? That just means so much. People you don't know, you've never met. Out of the blue, I had a heart attack, totally out of the blue. It was a massive shock, obviously, to myself and the family. But people just come in online in the internet, and we all know can be a horrible place at times. But I found so many positives out of it. And I'll give you a couple of examples. One, when I got home, I had the Deacon's clock, put a picture up on the internet, and I got 300 likes for that. I mean, which was like, geez, there's 300 people out there looking at it and thinking, that's really good for you. You've come home from hospital, you've got somebody that bucks you up, and people are saying, I like that. And just, if you have an opportunity and you see somebody's struggling and they post something, and you just make contact and say, talk to me, give me a shout, are you okay? That means so much. It's hard to put into words what it means to somebody and what it meant to me. And before I come on the pod, and I had messages, probably through yourself, Fyfie, from Fools Rush In, saying, hey, how you doing, pal? And, never met you, didn't really know much about it, but just those few words make a hell of a difference. And what you're saying about this pod being able to do good, and I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning his name. A few weeks ago, Paddy Stavros put out there, feeling a bit rough, chest is hurting, I'm going to sit in the conservatory. I said to him, get yourself checked out, just do it and make sure you do. And again, he put a note out a few days ago saying that I gave him some good medical advice. Now, to be able to do that, and it's all through the pod in Swindon Town, and it's, Swindon Town fans looking after their own, and just those few words make such a difference. And, to me, that's the positives of what we do. And like Fyfie said, we have the good crack, and we're like mates down the pub, taking the piss out of each other, talking football shit. But there are so many more important things in there. And just being available, we've said it enough times. You've said it, Fyfie, Woody, Rich, everybody. If you want to contact us, just to say, I'm struggling, what do you reckon? And we will do all we can to help. Simple as that. And from that point of view, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And it's helped me. I think myself as a fairly level-headed person, and I don't think I've really suffered with mental health, but just those few messages, it gives you a boost. And if it does nothing more than that, that's a positive, and it's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, love it, love what we do, and love people interacting with us. And just to make that small difference, just if you could do that, it makes you feel good as well. So it works two ways. So the more we can do it, the better it is.
Yeah, and while you were saying that, I mean, we saw, I don't know if you had the chance to read it, but I'm going to bring Mike's post back up there, Nick. He put, I'm rarely well enough to leave the house. This podcast is almost my social life. Some people might find that funny, but actually it is a massive help to me. And for us, like you said, fundamentally, we're here to talk about Swindon Town. We have made great relationships with each other and the people we come into contact with. But when we get messages like that, it genuinely means the world to us that people think of us in just such a way, because we never ever thought it would be anything like that. I think I was saying to possibly you, Joe, not long ago, when I first sent messages out about doing this, I hoped that one person would say they'd come and talk Swindon Town with me, and one person would care enough to listen to what we had to say. And where we are now is far and away from that.
And lo and behold, along came Ben.
Rich, before we move on, it would be unfair not to let you sort of just have your say in how you view both the positive and negatives in terms of football.
What was that again? Sorry,
just in terms of how you understand the positive and negatives of football's impact on different people's mental health, and why it really can be a good tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Woody covered it mainly, like in terms of obviously football fans, obviously during COVID and everything like that. And I absolutely 100% agree. Sometimes, well, for most of us, football is life. That's what we do. That's what we go on a Saturday for. We go into the stadium, we embrace it, and if we're not there, we listen. We're either listening to it on the radio or we're watching it on iFollow. Do you know what I mean? But in terms of that's from obviously a fan perspective. From my personal perspective, when I'm coaching the younger generation, like you sort of seem most players most kids, they come and they want to come away from school, enjoy it with their friends, enjoy playing football, enjoy learning a more sociable aspect of society, and just embracing that culture and getting to know that culture as well. And when you do see somebody struggling, because kids do struggle as well.
Yep.
And you do see that maybe they're going through a tough time.
Honestly, I would not want to be a kid these days. I thought I had it relatively bad.
Yeah.
Fat kid with glasses was always going to get bullied at school kind of thing. But
yeah,
to see what kids go through, the pressure kids are under these days, I would not want to be a kid again.
I mean, I was lucky. I obviously had a really good childhood. Obviously, my parents obviously still together 30 years on and everything like that. But I've got a lot of mates that obviously went through tough family, home life, either their parents divorced or something like that. And obviously you can see the sort of impact that they have on them. And just to be that person there to say, I'm there for you, sort of thing like that. And you're just there to take them away from whatever it is that's going from home. It's always good to have somebody there. It's always good to have your closest of friends be able to talk to. So
And the thing is, I know from yours and Woody's perspective, particularly, the role of a football coach is more than just that as well. I mean, I've got some friends up here who I saw in the town recently, and this is a separate story entirely. This isn't a bad story at all. But they were telling me their young son, and he's very young, a little bit younger than my lad. There's a girl at school he likes, and he wasn't sure what to do. But instead of talking to his mum or dad about it, he asked his football coach what he should do. And so that it's not just family members or close friends. Just being that person that someone can look up to comes with a certain level of responsibility as well.
Absolutely. And I think I'm echoing now.
That's fine.
I think Danny put it in the chat about the foundation calling the elderly people once a week, like sort of thing like that. They're more than just a coach. They're
this one here.
Yeah, that's the one there, and that's absolutely fantastic. And do you know what? That is what STFC Foundation are all about there. And they've got a talented group of brilliant coaches there that will go above and beyond. And for me to have a personal connection with my team, and they're starting to get to that point where they're almost finishing primary school now, and they're going to be going into the next phase of life.
Another
And
pressure again.
exactly, and that's when they'll be asking questions and everything like that, and that's where a coach comes in, and because they might be too embarrassed like you say, they might be too embarrassed to ask their parents, but their football coach is like their mates. So it is really, really good to sort of, and do you know what? It's not only a good thing for the kids as well, but it's good. It's good for the coach as well, because that means that child is actually, you know what? I'm not going to speak to my parents, but I'm going to go to my coach about this, because he might have a better perspective.
Trust. Give them the
And
trust.
yeah,
Trust.
and yeah, because it's between me and it's between them and the coach then.
Yeah.
And parents, yeah, exactly. So it is really good, and it works in both ways.
Woody, just before we move on, was there anything you wanted to add to that specific point about the role of a coach with a player?
No, Richard's pretty much said it. Really, I think I could, as he was saying, I could count the amount of relationship breakups I've been a witness to. The mediators in some cases, and yeah, you're never just a football coach. You're a taxi. Not so much with the youngsters anymore, but you're a taxi. You're the person organising. I've done help with GCSE work. I've done all sorts over the time, and you do come, as Nick alluded to it pretty superbly, in the fact it is that word trust. It's similar to a lot of people will discuss with their workmates more than they probably discuss with their best mates, because you're with your workmates and you trust your workmates, and things like that. So Rich pretty much nailed it in terms of it does give you that good feeling that you can be something just beyond teaching them how to pass a football. It is quite good. Many managers in the game thrive upon it. Fergie, Mourinho, they all thrive upon having good personal relationships with their players. Arteta, massive one as well. So
I was just going to say quickly that I was watching the Welcome to Wrexham the other day, and I think it was a player that was going through
Jordan. I want to say Williams, but it's not Williams. The young player who lost the baby.
His girlfriend. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there was a moment, literally, it was very brief, but you could just
him and
see
Parkinson.
That Parkinson had on him to make him feel reassured and everything like that. So, and Garvino said it there as well, that coaches and managers and anybody there are role models, and that's. Do you know what? You've got, like Nick has said, you've got to build that trust. And if you have that trust with your team or with any player that plays in the game, then you are their role model, basically. And it's not been easy for me. I mean, I've been coaching this team for 4 years now. But, you've got to have that enthusiasm. You've got to have that previous experience to, be that role model, because if it doesn't just happen like that. So it is really good, and it's really reassuring that I've got to a point where I have built a trust.
We have got a couple more topics still to go through, including big news today for STWFC, which we'll come to in a minute. But if I don't do it now, so please forgive me for indulging just for a moment, I will forget. I keep getting told off. I've mentioned them a few times tonight. I keep getting told off by my lad for our theme tune, because everybody else seems to, he said, when he does bother to watch just the first bit, everyone else has got their kid in the opening trail bit, and I haven't. So specifically for him tonight, just very briefly, here's a picture specifically of Aidan this year with Rockin' Robin, so that he can say his picture has featured. I'm sure he'd be a lot happier with that picture than me posting this one of him at the Salford game, looking very, very miserable.
Was that when you were applauding the lino, Fyfie, as well?
So, yeah. So, I mean, he won't be watching now. He'll be fast asleep in bed. But I can tell him that his picture has now been up on Fools Rush In. And when we come to do a new theme video for next year, I'll consider the parental bit as opposed to just the football bit when I'm picking my pictures.
That's right. Fyfie, you can tell him that my kids won't want to be on it either. They look at what we do and they think, "What are you doing, for Christ's sake?"
As long as you're enjoying it, though, Nick, that's all I'm worried about.
I absolutely love it.
Does that mean that Ben's my kid?
Or you're his?
Yeah, probably that way around.
Woody, huge news today that the first or the next, should we say, the next game at the county ground has been announced.
Yeah, finally. The dates are surpassing me, but it's obviously we got the men's game first, and then it's completely gone now. Sorry for everybody's records. I'm on a ridiculous amount of meds at the moment, so my mind is completely gone. Come on, Rich, help me out here. Which men's game is it?
22nd of October.
Thank you. Yeah, so great news, fantastic. Hopefully the weather's not really crap, and then Marcus decides to kick off about his pitch. We kind of needed the good news to be announced after what was a bit of a horrible weekend for the teams. I'm not going to avoid an update, Fyfie, because I'm not that type of person.
No,
obviously the first team lost 4-0 to Southampton Women's, who are on very good form at the moment, and my dev side lost 5-1 to Stourbridge in the plate. But it's a fantastic bit of news. It's what we want, and I think it's what's going to get people interested. I think the kickoff's at 6:15 as well, so it's not long after the men's game's finished. So hopefully that means we'll get a decent crowd in. I did say to Rich earlier it'd be quite interesting to see Bolton Rovers, who we're playing against, their tier 6 side, so 2 tiers below in the FA Cup. It's a good occasion for them as well in some ways, because with the nicest respect to Bolton Rovers, they won't play in front of that crowd again until unless they push themselves up the leagues. So a really good experience, and a good opportunity for us to choose a game where it's going to have a good impact on the other side, on the other team as well. It's the club are looking forward to it. Obviously, we knew that one game was going to happen in October. The first game didn't go to plan because the league denied it. But hopefully, it's looking ahead. In terms of fixtures this weekend, I'm assuming you wanted that as well.
Yes, please.
The first team in County Cup action against Caen. That will be a bit of a mixed squad, I imagine, because in the greatest respect to Caen, they're a couple of leagues below. So it'll be an opportunity.
It's dangerous doing things like that.
It's dangerous. Yeah, we're not going to be making Papa John's trophy-esque changes. It's just there's going to be an opportunity for some kind of under 18s potentially to get some first team football experience as well. And the devs will be hoping to try and get their first 3 points of the season, because we're away to Keynsham after a very, very tricky start to the season.
Thank you very much. And you've timed it just about right, because it looks, although your audio's fine, your visual is sort of a very stop-start animation at the moment. So hopefully that'll catch up in time. Joe, as I've said, you've listened to us for a while, and it's something that's only just been made apparent to us. So I'm sure you could probably comment closer. But Danny's tweeted in an idea for the Fools Rush In Christmas do. Take a shot every time someone says alluded to. You'll be absolutely smashed. Are we as bad as people seem to suggest that everyone is constantly alluding to something? Have you noticed?
It is a popular phrase, Fyfie, not going to lie. It is, alluded to. I think if I can't listen to you on a Friday, as you know, I always put it on a Saturday pre-match or whatnot. But yes, alluded to. I think that should be like Fools Rush In alluded to. I think that should be your strap line.
Well, while we've got you in the focus, we are obviously going live again Friday night, as has become customary now. So there'll be a lot more Colchester, including, as long as nothing changes over the next couple of days, the return of fan favourite Cy. He'll be back with us again to talk all things Colchester on Friday night. But it'd be rude just in case anyone here can't make that particular episode. So we'll start with you, Joe. How confident are you that we can turn it round and again get straight back to winning ways?
Fairly confident.
Nice. And what's giving you that element of confidence? Just all round belief and positivity.
Absolutely, positivity is key. I've alluded to the fact that positivity is key.
You've done it yourself there. I love
No, I
it.
think I'll definitely win. Do you want a score prediction?
Oh, go on then. Why not?
Oh, I'm not gonna do the obvious 2-1 Town, because I always say 2-1 Town. I think I'll go 3-1 Town.
3-1 Town. Ben did suggest Rich, and this is purely Ben's words. I may be paraphrasing slightly because by this point I'd lost the will to live with some of his comments.
Are we going to be 4 defeats in 13 now?
He suggested that our upcoming fixtures were a great opportunity to build momentum. That suggests to me that he thinks Colchester are quite straightforward opposition. He also said bogey teams are only bogey teams until you beat them. So please.
Basically, what Ben is saying is that the next 2 games that we've got are tin pot.
Yeah, well, yeah, essentially, yes.
Ooh.
No, Colchester are our bogey team. We never really seem to do well at home against them, and we never seem to do well away.
Never seem to do well generally against them.
We don't seem to do generally well against them at all. They've obviously just come off the back of a defeat. Obviously Harrogate beat us at the start of the season. They've just beaten Harrogate, but obviously Harrogate have been rubbish since they beat us, basically. And Colchester are quite low down the table. I think they're 20th now, I think. Again, we shouldn't be taking teams lightly. We shouldn't be going in to say, oh, yeah, they're our bogey team, we're going to lose against them. In fact, actually, I sort of agree. I never agree with Ben, but I sort of agree with him. Yeah, and imagine, well, do you know what? I'm actually glad that he's got that perspective that actually we could go in and actually win a game of football, which is what we should be doing for every single game.
Ben's backtracking.
But we all know in League Two that no matter what your position is, it doesn't matter. Any team can beat us. We could go into a game and it could be a banana skin. With this league, it's so topsy-turvy. You could go from 17th in January to getting into automatic promotion. We know this league. We know this league inside and out now. And we know we cannot take teams boggy times at a state.
I think that's supposed to read as bogey teams.
God, that's terrible reaction there on. Blimey. But yeah, we've got to be our best, basically. We've got to create the atmosphere as fans, like we usually do. But we have got to take advantage, but it's the way we take advantage. And Lindsay's the one that's got to try and get that right. He's got to get the best team out. He's got to get the best out of his players. He's got to get the game plan and hopefully learn from his mistakes from the Stevenage game, basically. And that's what you got to do. You've got to learn from your mistakes, or not even learn from your mistakes, but try and put a more positive spin on things when you go into the next game, because sometimes it just doesn't work out. So, but I again, like I say, I haven't been paying too much attention to Colchester. The only way I can really judge them is by their league position. And I like to think that we're in a slightly better position than they are. So I'd like us to think that we'll be able to get 3 points this game. Am I confident about it? Not necessarily, but again, I'm the kind of person that will take the game as it is and hope for the best, basically, and just going with the best positive mindset as possible. But I would like to think that we could potentially snatch a result here and get 2-1.
Okay, so Jo decided she wasn't going to use 2-1 Town. You've gone straight in and taken 2-1 Town. Nick, how are you feeling that that lessons will be learned and it can only be better?
I think so. I think Lindsay is a realist. I think I saw him quoting as saying Saturdays was our worst performance of the season. So he doesn't try and put crap spins on it. He says it as it is. The good thing is he's got a full week of training, a full week to get them prepared. So there are no excuses. So it's down to him what he does. 3-0 Town, blimey. So yeah, and again, it's just we need that fast start, and we've got to go out from the blocks, and we've just got to go for the throat. No mercy. We've got to go, and we've got to hunt them down. Is it a need to win or a must win? It's always debatable this early in the season, Woody. But I think this is a must win, and I agree with Woody on that. Coming off the back of a defeat, we did it before after Northampton. We got back on track. I'm as confident as you can be as a Swindon supporter that we can do the same Saturday. Hopefully we'll get a pretty good turnout. Obviously they're not going to bring many. The only thing that worries me is Colchester. I was unfortunate enough to be up at Colchester when we give away a goal in the last few minutes against 9 men. So you never know what Town are going to do. But yeah, Lindsay's got a week of hard work, and I hope the players respond because, again, it's another game that they owe him. A lot of time for Lindsay. I think he will do the business. They've got to step up. Simple.
Woody?
Yeah, I forgot to mention earlier about what Lindsay's post-match. I fully agree with what Nick said there. It was good that he came out and actually said, he didn't beat around the bush. He said he might as well have just said we were crap, which was quite refreshing. Colchester's a strange one because I think they've got quite a decent squad in terms of some of the players they've got. So I am quite surprised to see them so low. Is it an opportunity for us to go get 3 points? I would still think that every game is an opportunity for us to get 3 points, but I think we'll win, but I do think it'll be quite nervy. I feel it could even be a 3-2. I agree with Nick. If we get an early goal, and I said the same as Stevenage, if we're winning at half time, I'm more than confident we'll win the game. I think winning at half time is quite key for us. So I'm going to go 3-2.
3-2, lovely. There'll be a lot more Colchester preview on the episode on Friday night. We have reached the we have reached the point in the proceedings where, basically at the moment, Mike and John are competing with each other to who can test the panel the most. John at the moment is submitting question after question, and it is he again who has decided to test the team. You can work as a team. We're not asking individually. And Joe, just to give you the heads up, no one other than myself knows what the question is. So no one has any time to prep or rehearse or practice any outcome for this. But what I've been asked is how well. The other thing, obviously, is when they send these questions in, John and Mike particularly don't know who the panel are going to be when they ask this. But what John wants to know is how well do the panelists know some of Swindon Town's managers over the years? And what he has provided me, and I love the fact that people are doing my job for me now and sending me all the detail as well. So all I have to do is read it straight off the screen. Is I'm going to give you a decade and an amount of games, and all you have to tell me is who's the manager.
Ugh.
That's simple. Are we all buzzing? Yeah,
Absolutely.
easy. Exactly. Yeah, easy. Did I need to, just in case, because I can't remember now while I was talking, if I actually flashed these up. So let me just put that again. Danny's saying 2-1 Town. We've got possible draw, not that it helps. And 5-0 Town.
Love to see it.
Love to see it. So here we go then. There's only a few managers listed. You know, this isn't going to go on forever, but let's just give you the first one. Should be nice and easy for a few of you. So the decade is the 80s, and the amount of game is 285.
Oh, it's got to be Lou McCurry, isn't it?
Well done, Rich.
the only one
It's
I-
just that easy, Joe. So if you know it, shout, just jump in and shout. Don't worry. Was it Warren on the last episode? He got the sponsor of this season's shirt, and then he was like, "I don't know anymore, guys."
No more. I'm done.
Right. Next up, we've got 90s 204.
McMahon.
Correct.
Mm.
Sticking with the 90s and 85.
Van Huddle.
No.
Oh. It was the only other manager I really knew from the 90s. But,
How many games did Jimmy Quinn have?
He had 85. Well done, Woody.
It's in.
I don't
Rich, were
really.
you born in the 90s? Were you like physically alive?
Were you physically alive in the 90s,
Physically
Rich?
alive.
Say
No, Joe, he was partly dead in the 90s.
I wasn't even thought. Nah, 96. Yeah,
He was still a sperm in the 90s.
1996.
Congratulations to those, particularly Christian, who is getting eventually getting them in the comments. Where are we going next? We're off to the noughties and just 26 games.
What's his name? Ifeanora?
Nope.
Paul Hart.
Nope. Do you want a clue?
Oh wait, he wasn't noughties anyway. He was 2011.
Still no one's got it right in the chat either.
Oh no, actually no.
Okay.
Nobody's got it right in the chat. That's what the chat said.
Yeah, I was going to say I haven't had a look at the chat.
It's only Christian at the moment posting anything.
Well, I was going to say Wise, but I know he didn't even have that many because he was only there 3 months.
Colin Todd.
No.
No.
Ah, so it's either King or Roy Evans then.
Yeah, I'm going to say
It
Roy
is either
Evans.
one of those, yeah.
I'd say Roy Evans.
Roy Evans is correct. We're sticking with the noughties, and this time we're going to 40 games.
Wisey.
Nope.
I don't even think he had 15, did he?
I know.
I know the
but
answer to that
didn't he?
question.
Oh, right, okay. 40 games.
In the noughties. Well, it's got to be. Surely we went through pretty much all the noughties just a minute ago.
He was mentioned earlier, yes.
We're just going Ifeanora.
Ifeanora is correct. Well done.
He had 40 games, did he actually?
Yeah, he had quite a few, didn't he? Yeah.
Sticking with the noughties, and think very carefully about what's been said not long ago. 17 games.
Wisey.
right. I was almost right then. I said 15.
Wise is correct. Another noughties manager with 42 games.
All right.
And it's the only one, I think, other than Sturrock, that you hadn't mentioned. By the way, we had some shit managers, didn't we?
I was going to say. No, he had
Wilson
much
was
more than that.
2008. David Byrne.
Is it Paul Hart?
No.
No, he was
Malpass.
2011, I think.
Malpass is correct.
Oh, Maurice
Oh,
Malpass.
God, he was crap, wasn't he?
Okay, we're moving into the 2010s now, and someone who had 11 games.
Paul Hart.
That's
Hart is correct.
Yeah.
And 14 games?
That was 14 games. Hang on. McDonald.
Correct.
Oh, great shout.
9 games.
Oh fuck. Lee Power.
No,
Which decade are we in?
we're still in the 2010s.
Oh, I know. Was
Martin
it?
Ling, surely.
Martin Ling, correct.
Oh, Martin Ling.
Oh, I love Martin Ling. So
32 games.
John Sheridan.
No.
Oh, I know. He's only...
almost as bad as John Sheridan.
Yeah, not bad.
But it's not. It wasn't a hard decade, was it? Is it almost as bad as John Sheridan? Bad football as well. Phil Brown.
Yes, Phil Brown is correct. Where are we going next? We're moving into the 2020s now. 33 games. John Sheridan is correct. And then last one, 0 games.
McGrail.
McGrail is correct. Well done. I have to say, well done, Rich and Woody. You were just taking that one apart on their own. Very, very well done. And thank you, as always, for submitting the questions. Woody, Nick, Rich, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure spending Monday evening with you. But Joe, final comments to you, if I can. Obviously, this is your debut appearance. Hopefully, we'll see you again in the not too distant future. But how did you find it? And what would you say if there was someone else who kind of felt like they'd like to ask to be on it sometime, but weren't sure whether it was the right thing to do or not?
Well, Fyfie, I've been a bag of bloody nerves all day. Really quite nervous about it. And no, I would recommend to anyone, if you would have come on and sleep with these guys, they're lovely. They don't bite at all.
Well,
we don't know what you and Woody were up to when the screens went off.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Woody will ever know.
I like Jo. She can come again.
No, but definitely give it a go. They're great, but I love this show anyway. So it's been a real privilege. Thank you so much for letting me come on.
No, it's
well
our
done,
pleasure,
Joe.
honestly.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
We hope that it's not too long before you do come on again. But from myself and everyone here tonight, until Friday, when we preview, like I say, Sai is back. Oh, hang on, before we do, we've got more. So I don't know if you saw that one. Let's flash Claire's comment back up for you there, Joe. And then we've got Danny as well. And then we've got more here.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you very much. It's very kind.
So lots of praise for your debut. But for myself, from Joe, Woody, Nick and Rich, thank you very much for spending your Monday evenings with us. We really do appreciate it. Until Friday night, goodbye.
Take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love with